Hey folks, this is Michael Grubb, Evolved Ministry. We're obviously in the middle of a rainstorm, which is perfect for me. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to demonstrate one of the hardest things that there is to do when it comes to meditation. Okay, so this series, these segments are going to be about meditation and how to plug in the best way possible. Okay, so number one of the hardest things that there is to do when it comes to meditation is quieting the mind. The other thing is getting to a state of complete and total relaxation. Now you have to understand that when it comes to relaxation, this is the key in order to be able to really plug in and meditate. If you are not relaxed, then your mind usually does a bunch of twists and turns, and the next thing you know, you're listening to a whole bunch of stuff that you've done earlier in the day or something that you did to embarrass yourself the day before, and you're just hearing a bunch of mental chatter that doesn't do you any good in connecting in. Okay, so you have to understand that all that mental chatter is there to throw you off. The whole thing here is that meditation is not necessarily meant to be easy. You have to seek for it. You have to seek for inner peace. You have so much, what I would call, so many distractions, so much input that typically it's hard to shut your mind down from all that input. And many of us, and myself included, usually even when I go to sleep at night, I have to have something running because that does a whole lot to calm the inner mind chatter down. So, nonetheless, when it comes to meditation, all right, you want to be able to calm down that inner voice in your mind that is bouncing to and fro. One of the best ways to do that, of course, is to create another diversion. Create something that your mind has to focus its attention on, as opposed to focusing upon or directly upon what's going on up there. So, how do I do this? Well, when I initially started humming, I did it for the purposes of using it as a distraction. Now, humming eventually plugged me into a whole lot of other things within the atmosphere. Okay, I started learning that humming was a frequency. Of course, that frequency is a waveform, which is connecting into the moving waveforms that are already within the environment. Okay, so what it does is typically either activates or serves as a means to direct some of the energy or the ambient energy that's already there. So, now, humming is a very personal thing, and in order to get the best results, you really do want to be in tune, on key. It's all about the harmony. It's all about replugging in to that in the universe, which is already moving. You gotta understand, what's already moving in the universe is harmonious. It's moving in this waveform, this sine form, which is just constantly twisting, rotating, turning. Okay? So one of the best ways to connect into that is to be on tune. Now, personally, I use the key of C and G typically, and I fluctuate in between the two of them. And I do fluctuate into other frequencies and other notes, but for the most part, I'll stay on C and G because it does the most for me. So now here we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug in. I'm going to meditate and do a couple of oscillations. Now keep in mind, I'm focusing on these oscillations. I'm focusing on the tones because I don't want to focus on what is going on up here. What's going on up here again is a bunch of chatter that's going in cycles. So here we go. Again, to shut down the mind chatter, focus on the humming. And typically what I'm doing is just like breathing. I exhale for as long as I can, but I buzz as long as I can. Inhale. For me, sometimes I hold that inhale. Exhale. Now, the other thing is, when I talked about being comfortable earlier, this could mean many things. So what I truly mean is, typically what it takes for me to be 100% comfortable is I'm usually laying flat on my back and I have a pillow right up underneath. And I keep my eyes closed and focus straight upward. This I can almost, in a way, it's kind of replicating it because I can lean up against the wall. And I can allow comfort to set in. Now the thing is, people ask me, what is it that you're focusing on? What are you thinking about? Nothing. Typically, if I'm doing any of my psychokinesis correct, or if I'm doing any of my meditations correct, or the connecting, there's not much in the way of thought, there's only do. I'm just flowing into it. Now, if I do have to think of anything at all, if there must be a thought, then what I will do is repeat my own thought, which is love, over and over again. The thing is the more I even think that word, the more it programs itself into my system, and the more I become that word. So if there is a word that I must focus on, if I'm trying to connect, it will be love. And then I usually focus on anything that makes me feel what it means to love. So if need be, I will think of my dog, which recently passed, or I'll think of my family, or I'll think of my friends, or I'll think of a combination of all of those things. Okay, but anything that makes me really connect and feel that love. Okay, because once I start to feel it, then it starts to emanate outwards into my environment, and my environment and I become one cohesive, moving thing. Okay? So that's the reason why my connection usually looks extremely pure. Okay? It's connecting in, and then as soon as that connection is made, okay, then it is either allowing me to conduct for it or follow along with it, but either way, it looks completely seamless. So I'm going to, again, do a couple of, breathing tactics leading into the humming. So in this case, I'm inhaling all the way in. Again, doing those fluctuations and those variations, what I'm really doing is I'm just finding different ways to go back and forth and to stay focused and maintained on the frequency itself. Again, if I have to think of anything on top of that frequency, I'll think of love, but nothing else. The whole point, for me anyway, is to keep my mind completely clear, so that way, if transmissions come in, I can recognize what is external versus what is internal. Now, because we are who we are, and we're plugged into what we're plugged into, you got to keep in mind that although everything is internal, and we are the universe, and the universe is within us, and it's without us, okay? But at the same time, there are many other beings sharing our space. There are many other people out there, there's many other things, and they have their own thoughts, they have their thought forms, okay? And so whether we perceive that as an internal situation, keep in mind that everything else out there has its own free will and is also directing thoughts. So we have to be mindful of that. And sometimes just because we hear or feel something within our own mind doesn't make it ours. Our minds are, our brains are just like radios, senders and receivers of signals. So if you're having thoughts that you feel are not your own, chances are that could be the case. Is that reason to panic? No, just discard things and move right along. When negativity tries to pop in, discard it. You do have a choice as to what you choose to focus upon and not focus upon. So I'm going to do a quick, maybe 2-minute meditation. I'm going to show you what it looks like from my end, or at least what I do as a means of, if there was any sort of a routine before I really lock into the universal mainframe, it would be this. Sometimes I'm rocking back and forth and establishing my whole body system into a rhythm. I'm allowing the entirety of my consciousness to really sink in and merge, if you will, with the waveform of my own note. I'm expelling my entire bit of consciousness right into the note and just flowing outward. Okay, now I finished there with an oscillation. So you heard the, except I was doing it deep in the back of my throat. Remember that everything is moving in cycles, therefore everything is moving in an oscillating pattern. Okay, vibrating back and forth, going in circles in a flow-like pattern. So the more that you establish yourself within those flowing rhythms, the more the universe typically responds back to you. So anyway, this first lesson there, again, is about quieting the mind. There's a technique there that I gave to you about how to quiet the mind. There's several different techniques, but that's going to be the first one. And this is the basics of meditation and connecting into the universal mainframe. Mike Brewer of Evolved Ministry, www.evolvedministry.com.